Democrats, this is ball game. NBC News is predicting the Democrats will control the House of Representatives. It's been a night of victories, and it's been a night of some painful losses for the Dems. But this, of course, hands a vital branch of government to the opposite party.
To be clear, with Texas Senate going to Ted Cruz, NBC is projecting that the Republican Party will hold the Senate. NBC is now projecting that the Democratic Party will hold the House. So this means divided control on Capitol Hill. There's a lot of other races to cover over the course of this evening, including a lot of fascinating governor's races. But in terms of overall control of the two houses of Congress, at this point, it looks like we know how that big part of the story is going to end.
Nicolle Wallace, for the federal bench, you need the Senate. But for the investigations and the scrutiny that this administration will not welcome, you need the House.
Listen, this is everything. I mean, Democrats have been out of the ballgame. They've been incapable of doing what the Republicans were unwilling to do because they didn't control either the Senate or the House. And this changes everything. Adam Schiff is now the chairman of the House Intel Committee. We now have a branch of government who can try to answer the question that Robert Mueller is investigating, what role Russia had in the 2016 election. We have a president who is interested in the answer to that question. You now have Democrats able to subpoena and investigate a government that, by the White House's own admission, has had some very corrupt cabinet secretaries. The dude in tactical pants who was so corrupt, even the Trump White House fired him. I mean, this is a game changer. This changes Washington. This changes life for the White House staffers. And this changes Donald Trump's life immediately.
Elijah Cummings is the chairman, likely incoming chairman of the House Oversight Committee. We were talking about him the other night off camera when we were all here on Sunday night. Elijah Cummings I think is almost without equal in terms of the quality of his staff work, the vision with which he approaches his responsibilities, and the ability, just the sheer competence with which he approaches his role on that oversight committee. He and other Democrats on that committee have asked, over the past 2 years, they have requested 64 subpoenas related to oversight matters with the Trump administration. The Republicans had none of it. They wouldn't approve any of them. All of those will now be approved by Elijah Cummings. And that means, that means Ryan Zinke's life is about to get a lot harder.
Is that the guy in the pants? Who was that?
No, that
guy?
was Scott Pruitt.
Sorry.
Scott Pruitt was under criminal investigation.
Can you imagine? So just go back, Pruitt. Yeah. If you had a Democratic-controlled House, we would have gotten to the bottom of the $80,000 phone booth he wanted, his bulletproof desk. I mean, there have been people who have not just squandered the taxpayer dollar, but there's been outright corruption in the Trump cabinet.
Stolen the taxpayers' money.
Democrats haven't had any power to investigate or subpoena. That ends tonight.
Yes.
And we know from our conversation with Adam Schiff the other night that these incoming chairmen, they've kind of figured out how they're going to approach this. They seem to have a step-by-step game plan. They know who's going to do what, who's going to look where. So I think they'll hit the ground running.
I think the treasure hunt for Donald Trump's tax returns is on its way. And I think that we heard the other night, we were together on Sunday night, somebody at Ways and Means chair, somebody's going to go for it and they're going to get it. The subpoena is ultimately the powerful tool.
There was a discussion yesterday as to whether or not Kellyanne Conway violated the Hatch Act at a campaign appearance. And it kind of rose and died within an hour on social media because it was just too much. It was futile to even have the conversation because it was thought there's no governing body that will give us satisfaction.
I worked in a White House, a Republican White House, with a Democratic-controlled House, and I turned over my emails. They investigated the Enron scandal. They investigated the Energy Task Force. They have no idea what's about to happen. They will all have lawyers. They will all turn over their emails. And the winner is the taxpayer. The winner is the citizen. We will now have the ability for at least one chamber of Congress to get the answer to questions that the Trump White House has been unwilling to answer, that every other White House has had to answer for. And the Russia investigation is very much in danger. I talked to folks sort of familiar with the biorhythms of the Justice Department. They don't know whether to pack or charge. Are they packing up their offices, or are they getting ready to charge more criminals in the Russia investigation? So you look at how, and I was reminded today by a former national security official, no one ever passed legislation to protect Robert Mueller. So that investigation very much in question, it's really important for the country, for Democrats and Republicans. Everyone should be thankful that Democrats now control the House.
Didn't it strike you as odd the other night? Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who has not held many briefings in the last several months,
rally.
shows up at a rally, a public employee paid for by the taxpayer, showing up there huckstering for the president. I've never seen that
White
before.
House staffers were not allowed to go inside political events. They had to hold. I used to travel with Steve Hadley, who was the national security advisor, because if something happened and George W. Bush was campaigning, he had to be able to talk to his national security advisor. But he went from the plane to the car to a backstage, so he was never seen. I have never seen White House staffers in public at a political event.
When we were speechwriters, you had to take leave.
Right.
To write speeches for the campaign.
I was an intern, and I was told that you had to excise yourself from a conversation if anyone brought up electoral politics.